What's up, everybody? So many shows, so many shows.com, so many mashups. This is Mike, this is Pete, this is the NFL Free Agent Frenzy Review, recap, whatever you want to call it. Mike, don't call me Maxx Crosby because I stay in one place and I won't leave. What's up?
Yes, that was a heck of a storyline, but we'll get into that later. And hello. And I know this isn't a visual platform, but I see you're wearing a Jets sweater, so I just wanted to bring that up to the
Oh, we'll get
fans.
there. I have plenty to say about the fucking Jets, believe you me, but I do
I'll
want to
bet.
go right to Crosby and right to the talks of Crosby because there's a lot of talk at this point of was this a tactic by the Ravens doing business? And I've been watching all these reporters, so this is what I'm trying to explain. So here's the deal. Supposedly, when a guy fails a physical, like Matt Crosby did, and it doesn't mean that his knee's not good. It just means
Yep.
that he's not in playing condition yet. So he could have been drinking beers or whatever and not physically up to date for their standards. Each team has a different fitness physical you have to pass.
Yep.
The Ravens also, when you fail that physical that a team gives you, you can sign a waiver. It's some paper that you could sign that says that I guess if you get injured and you cannot perform for a certain amount of time in your contract, you do not get paid. So the contract isn't necessarily guaranteed. It's like a an injury waiver, or whatever they call it.
Yep.
What is it? Gerald McCoy went through this few years back, and they didn't. And the player can say, "I don't want to sign this," and then that deal falls apart. So you could say the Ravens back there to trade all you want. Nobody knows what really happened. They could have
Yep.
told Crosby, "Listen, you didn't pass this test. We need you to sign this waiver." He said, "I'm not signing it. My money's guaranteed. If you don't like it, I don't have to go there." And he could have been the reason why things got the way they did. Nobody really knows the true story. However, the
Yep.
other side of it is that they signed Trey Hendrickson, whatever his name is,
Yep.
from Cincinnati, the free agent, the day after that trade fell through. And if you look at the platform, the numbers are similar with Crosby and Hendrick as far as their disruption, they get their pressure and everything else. But one guy cost two draft picks, another guy just cost money.
Yeah.
And in the NFL, money's really less valuable than draft picks at this point. So the cheaper option was Hendricks, whatever you want to call him. However, the word is that they told Trey when they were signing him that Crosby's deal was still in the works. So
Oh,
when he
okay.
was going to sign with Baltimore, he thought he was going to be playing with Crosby.
Oh, okay.
So now he's over there in Baltimore. Don't get me wrong. I'm sure he's happy where he is with the money that he made. He did a good job and whatever, but we don't know if Crosby would have came through or went through all the way and didn't fail the physical if they would even call Hendricks.
Yeah.
So, but there's a lot of talk about how the Ravens decided that they could get the same guy and keep their number one picks, and Jesse Minter pulled the plug at the last minute when he saw an opening. Other talks is Crosby told him, "Go F yourself," and here we are. However, the Raiders, because this whole thing was so almost 99.9% done, the Raiders signed so many players in the pass rushing position to 1 year deals
Yep.
because they figured if they have like six guys at 1 year deals for the same amount of money, at least if one couple of those guys don't work out, you have four guys to play with. Now you bring back Crosby. Now you're kind of wow. I have way too many pass rushers at this position,
Yeah.
and the money is not right because we're spending 1/3 of our cap on the defensive position and defensive line position. And if you're the Raiders, you know you need a lot more help than that.
Definitely. Yes.
So it's been interesting. There's talks that Crosby can still go somewhere. However, the word from when I was watching on the TV is that they no longer want to give up two number one picks for Crosby. It's now a number one and a number two pick, a second round pick.
Oh, geez.
So the Raiders rather keep their player than not get two first round picks for him.
Yep.
But like I said, the Raiders are also in a position now where they have signed all these one year deal guys, and they can't afford to get another receiver now. They can't afford to get another guy in here. They can't afford this and that and the other.
Yes.
So that's interesting to see what's going to happen. Plus, is Crosby going to be healthy enough ever to play? Because right
I
now he's
think
still a
so.
Raider.
Yes, I believe so. I think like what you were saying earlier is that the player wasn't physically ready to play at the time of the physical, but
Yes.
say in 5 months down the road when the football season actually gets going, he'll be good to go 100%.
Crosby's agent said that his recovery is on pace to be ready for the way it's supposed to be. So there's no setbacks to the recovery. He just can't play football right now.
Yes.
So
So, and I don't know if you agree with me, but I thought this was a really crappy move on the Ravens part, and I really hope the NFL does something quickly here, not to penalize the Ravens this year. I mean, they did what they did, so be it. But there's got to be something in place so this doesn't become a normal thing in future free agency pools because the Raiders spent money on an offensive lineman. I think they signed a center to a big contract as well for the offensive side. And they spent money here and there thinking that, hey, we're going to have Maxx Crosby out. We don't have to worry about his contract, sign all these players like you were saying earlier. But now that the rug's been pulled out from them, they got to somehow afford Maxx Crosby as well, too. It's like, geez. So I hope that the NFL looks at this and does something for in the future where if a team does this, they still lose that for like those picks that they agreed to trade with in principle. I know it wasn't official until Wednesday. I get it, but was
The
it
problem
legal?
is,
Probably
well,
yes, but was it ethical? No. Yeah.
the problem is that the Raiders, and it's all fucked up because the Raiders, you could say the Raiders should have never signed those players until they knew the Crosby trade was official. However, if they didn't sign those players, other teams would have signed those players. So
Exactly.
you put yourself in a situation. Bottom line on this subject, then we'll move on.
Yes.
Does Maxx Crosby play for the Raiders this whole season, or does he go to another team at some point?
I still think there's a deal to be made. I think that the Raiders stand pat. He probably won't play the full season in Las Vegas, but if they hold on to him and he starts the season, he's tearing it up and getting sacks and pressures and stuff like that. I can see the Raiders putting him back on the market and saying, "Hey, where do you want to go? We got these teams interested in you because they got playoff aspirations. We don't." So I see him not lasting the full season in Vegas and going to another team by the trade deadline.
Interesting. All right, so I just want to bring up a side note, then we'll get to the Jets, and then we'll get to the overall rundown. So, did I read right that Kyler Murray is now the quarterback of the Minnesota Vikings?
Yes, you did read that right.
Is he the starting quarterback of the Minnesota Vikings, or is he a backup to McCarthy, or is there a quarterback competition brewing here?
I mean, I've heard two things. It's either a way to push JJ McCarthy to prove that he could be a starting quarterback, and I've heard that Kyler Murray would only come in to be a starter type of thing. Otherwise, he'd try to go to the Jets or Cleveland or the Raiders or something, to have a chance at starting. I'm hoping it's more of a competition thing. I've not really been a fan of Kyler Murray since I've heard things where he doesn't watch video and he'd rather play Call of Duty with friends or whatever instead of studying playbooks and stuff like that. Plus, I'm not trying to size shame him, but he's 5'10", I think. If
Who do
that.
you want to start for your team week one?
Oh, sweet. Yeah, I figured you're going to ask that. Okay. Usually I say let's see how preseason plays out if they even play in preseason. So if McCarthy beats out Kyler Murray and is looking better, I'd like to see McCarthy start week one. However, if he's not ready, I'd rather see Kyler Murray start week one because at least he's a seasoned veteran. He's got 8 years under his belt. And he's only 28 years old, so he's still in the prime of his career. But like I said, just not a fan of the how short he is because it's like those offensive linemen, defensive linemen, when he's trying to throw up and over them, it's gonna
Maxx
be
Crosby
a
is
challenge.
6'5".
Yes.
Listen, spoiler alert, they both suck. So, transition into quarterbacks that suck. The Jets have made 2 offensive signings and like 18 defensive signings. Now, you would think, okay, well, then they got a sick defense. No, we've been signing guys on the Jets that were Jets 10 years ago. And I'm
Yep.
just exaggerating here. I don't know the exact numbers, but like when the first signing came up and it was like Jets signed to Mario Davis, and I'm like, oh, wasn't that guy a Jet back in the day when we drafted him and then went to like New Orleans, had a successful career, and now he's coming back to die. And not die literally, but like just run down your career. You
Yeah.
start with the Jets, bring it home, go last run for coach, you love Aaron Glenn, whatever the case is, blah, blah, blah. But when you think of getting help at the quarterback position and you think of free agent signings, you don't think you're going to sign the guy on the only team in the league that was worse than yours.
Yes.
Actually, and it was the reason why his team got the number 1 pick.
Well, not only that, but they traded for him. They traded a sixth rounder and a seventh in
Here's
return
the
type of
thing.
thing.
Here's my problem. So you look at this. You look at Geno Smith trade, right? And I wanted to look at it with a positive outlook because it's really hard to look at it positively. But the only thing that made it positive is that if he's going to be a backup, at least he's like you said, a seasoned veteran backup.
Yep.
He's been around the league now. He's mature. A big problem they had with Geno Smith when he was younger, I believe, was because he was not mature. And he had a lot of problems with people. So you would think he matured now at this point. However, under no circumstances should he be named the starting quarterback. Now, if he is named the starting quarterback, that's a shame. However, when you look at the Jets roster right now, who's going to be your starting quarterback?
Yeah. I haven't even looked at the depth chart since they got Geno Smith. I
Don't we
mean,
still have Justin Fields?
Did he? I thought he just signed a 1 year contract, or did he sign a multi-year contract?
Well, I mean, I don't really care about the Jets QBs at this point because it's a mess.
Yeah, but it's still a curious question. It's like, oh yeah, who do they have as a person that can
Okay, so the Jets,
compete?
the quarterback room also includes Brady Cook and Tyrod Taylor.
Oh, okay. So unless
So
they get somebody in the draft that they can I mean, there's not a lot in the draft this year for quarterback wise, but
this is what I'm
ugh,
saying. So it's like, this is your only option. This was your best option. Aaron Glenn, you're becoming Adam Gase 2.0 very quickly. Yeah, they did sign a offensive lineman, I think, from Chicago or something. The guy was a beast, so good for him, Parlin or whatever. And they signed, like I said, a bunch of defensive guys, but these guys are Mika Fitzpatrick. I mean, he's still good,
yeah,
but he's a name 5 years ago. You know what I
yeah.
mean? Like,
He's at
you
the
know,
tail end of his career, not on the uprising of his
and it
career.
seems like Aaron Glenn picked up a bunch of these guys in the tail end of his career, and I could only think one thing: you're tanking for another year for a quarterback.
Yep.
I mean, you can't say you are, but when you make moves like the Jets are making, I mean, I don't see the team much improve.
Yeah.
You know, the Raiders went out and spent a bunch of money and got Crosby back, and you look at all these guys they picked up; they got some studs on the Raiders
Yes.
with Genti and Mendoza now coming in, and then all these receivers. Bowers, you have a core.
Yep.
The Jets have no core.
Yeah, I liked how the Raiders signed. Shoot, he was the third receiver for the Vikings this past season. I don't see him being much more than a third or number two receiver, but with more playing time, he might be able to develop pretty well.
Yeah, no, it's ridiculous. So here we go. Malik Willis signed with Miami.
Yep.
And I heard a rumor that the Jets offered Malik Willis a contract that was bigger than the one in Miami, and he told them no. He doesn't want to go there. And I'm not even joking.
I,
He chose
I
to go to
believe you.
Miami over the Jets.
I
So
believe you.
yeah, Tua Tagovailoa is now in Atlanta.
Yep.
Geno Smith is back with the Jets, and the Cardinals are going to go, and their starting quarterbacks right now are either going to be Jacoby Brissett or Gardner Minshew. How does it
Interesting.
feel that Sam Darnold, you let him go?
Look, in hindsight, I really wish they would have signed Sam Darnold to at least a 3 year contract, maybe matching what Seattle offered, or maybe a little bit more to keep him there. But obviously, because the players that the Vikings signed in last year's offseason during free agency, the defensive linemen that they signed, they had to cut them this year because of salary caps. So it's like the defensive players you brought in to shore up the interior of the defensive line aren't even on the team right now. So in hindsight, yes, I would have gone Darnold. Let's see what you can do. If not, whatever. But yeah.
So here we go. Kirk Cousins was released. He is
Yep.
available. Brian Robinson Jr., the running back, was released. He's available.
Oh wow.
Juwan Jennings is still available, wide receiver.
Oh, okay.
Debo Samuel's still available.
Yeah, he's getting up there in age. I don't.
You know what? I'm going to go out on
Yeah.
a bold prediction here and say that Debo Samuel signs with the Jets when all is said and done. I can see Aaron Glenn going after him. He's at the tail end of his career. And here's another guy who's reeks to be a Jet, David Njoku. I can see the Jets bringing in Debo Samuel and Njoku and being like, yo, we got Smith, we got Halls, you got Samuel and Njoku. And I'm be like,
Yes.
and you got a fucking first round pick again in the top five.
Exactly.
Rashad Walker's offensive tackle. Actually, I want him. Just needs to tell. Oh, Jawan Taylor's available too. See, I didn't even know half these guys were available. Wyatt Teller. There's a lot of good guys available. Joey Bose is available.
Yeah.
So I mean, these guys. Some of these guys cost money too. Let's not forget that. There's a lot. So you forget that we don't. These guys like. So it's like selling a house. So like
Hmm.
you own a house and you're like, okay, the street value of my house is $350,000, but you feel like your house is worth 485,000. But
Yes.
ain't nobody gonna pay you for that shit. So guess what, Joey Bosey, you are a house not on the market for a long, long time. That's
Yes.
that's the way I look at that.
Or they're trying to wait for the right fit, the right team to call because they don't want to play in certain areas or something. You never know. But curious when these players are going to sign some of the bigger names you were just mentioning. You thought would be day one guys right off the board or off the board right away.
Well, I'm gonna jump through each team real quick and just kind of give a rundown. My DJ Moore was in the trade, was acquired to the Bills. He's now a Bills wide receiver from the
Yep.
Bears. Brees Hall, I want to go back to the Jets for a second. He got the franchise tag because, he wants a big time deal because of his numbers. And when the Jets were signing all these defensive guys, he actually put out a text. Oh, they sure as hell spending a lot of money out there in New York, considering they don't want to pay him.
Yeah.
Josh Johnson signed a 1 year contract with the Bengals. Seems like that guy's been on every team ever.
Yes. Yeah, he's the true definition of a journeyman quarterback.
So I noticed the Steelers. I think the Steelers are making some decent moves. Also, they picked up Rico Dowdle. Dowlin.
Dowdle.
Um,
Yep.
Yeah, from the Panthers, he signed with the Steelers now. And Michael Pittman was traded from the Colts to the Steelers. I feel like those are two decent pickups for them. I mean, they kept Haywood too, so that was big.
Yep. Still waiting to hear whether Aaron Rodgers is going to play there again this year or not.
Do you think Aaron Rodgers plays there?
If he's going to play, he'll probably stay in Pittsburgh.
I don't think he makes it this season. I think he starts the season. I don't think he finishes the season. I think they get another QB somewhere, and that QB finishes the season one way or the other.
Yep.
Daniel Jones got a 2-year deal with a lot of incentives for 88, so the Colts will give him a chance, even though he blew out his left and right knee.
Yes.
And Alec Pierce, who was the stud receiver for the Colts last year, signed the big time contract. He was actually the one of the biggest names that said would go first in the market. They had 3 teams lined up for him, and the Colts ended up spending the money. So I told you, the Ursay girl over there, she's doing a really good job.
Yeah.
As far as trying to put your team in a position to win.
Yep.
Which most people don't do, like the Jets owner doesn't do.
Yeah,
you can't get mad at you can't get mad like the Vikings owner because no one knew Sam Darnold was going to win the Super Bowl. I get that, but like we know Geno Smith is ass, so like why would you go out and do that?
Yep,
and bring him
probably
back?
Could have been a better potential starting quarterback than him available somewhere.
Yes, another big note: Travis Kelce, who we thought was retiring, is actually re-signed with a 1-year deal with the Chiefs. And the rumor on that is that Taylor Swift convinced him to play football for 1 more year. So maybe she wants to go on tour and then say we'll both retire at the same time. That's what I'm thinking is going to happen. I think it's their last year for both of them, and then they're going to try to disappear somewhere because whatever makes them happy. I'm not nobody to judge. Kenneth Walker, the Super Bowl MVP, also signed with the Chiefs with them trying to get some powerhouse. Because you think with Mahomes being so good, you get a couple of decent receivers, and here you go. Now you have Walker, who could shut down the game, who he did in the Super Bowl. So I think it was a good signing for him. The Chargers signed a ton of people that I don't even know the name of.
I saw that. And going back to the Chiefs, but they also traded off their top 2 cornerbacks. So it's like they got to get some cornerback depth to replace McDuffie, who they traded to the Rams or something like that. McDuffie,
yes,
like that, but yeah,
McDuffie's a Ram, and the Rams are good. Like I said, the Chargers are signing everybody. The Rams making moves. Javonte Williams signed a deal with the Cowboys. He was the running back for the Broncos for a while.
Yep. Oh, isn't that 2 ex Bronco running backs now in Dallas? Thought they already had one of them already.
I believe
put up good numbers last year, if I'm not mistaken. Had them on a couple of fantasy football teams.
The Eagles lost a couple of guys. What was it? Phillips, Jalen Phillips went to the Panthers also.
Yeah.
So the Panthers are making moves, right?
Yeah. Well, it seems like they're trying to bring in some other talent, defensive side. Because the offense did pretty good, but now who's going to be their running back? Rico Dowdle, I think it was their leading running back last season. So is it going to be what's his name? I can't remember. I forget. Anyways, don't know what they're going to do on the running back.
I know who you're talking about, though. I know exactly who you're talking about. He had a good game when he played. He was good at shutting down the game. Some people were insulted because the Panthers are actually the Falcons were favored to win the division, and people got mad because the Panthers won the division and had better upgrades than the Falcons, but yet the Falcons were still higher up in the odds.
Oh yeah.
And the last thing I'll bring up about the news for football, Mike Evans went to the 49ers. Now, normally first of all, the 49ers, hell yeah, because McCaffrey and Evans is just a beast combo and Purdy's pretty decent. But I've never seen a player go from one team to another that Tampa Bay and San Francisco aren't friends. That's a hostile environment. When they play, it's a fucking, mano type thing. And the only time ever, really, it's a rare occasion when somebody goes from one team to like an interdivision or like an intercity or whatever it is, and they get welcomed in there and still welcome from both.
Yep.
So what I sit there and say to myself is Mike Evans, they said the Tampa Bay, the city of Tampa or whatever, they still love Mike Evans no matter what. So, that shocked me because normally you're like, oh, tell this guy to fuck himself because he left me and, we need to win Super Bowls, but he done so much for Tampa and they love him so much that this is one of the situations where he's going to go to San Francisco, be competitive, try to win a chip, play his, his contract out, maybe sign an extension at some point for a couple more years, maybe do 3 to 5 more years, and then retire as a Buccaneer. Lifetime Buccaneer. Mike Evans certainly helps and improves the 49ers. However, Mike Evans also seemed kind of injury prone at this point in his career. So,
Yep.
I mean, he was injured last year for a little bit. So we wish him the best and hope everything works out for him.
Yeah, definitely upgrades that wide receiver depth. I saw like a thing that Ayuk is still on the team, even though he's not technically signed for this upcoming year. So curious to see what's going to happen on that front, or maybe they're going to add a few more pieces here in the next few weeks, or leading up to the draft, or in the draft. Get a few younger pieces wide receiver wise around Evans to learn from.
But yeah, I think that's it. Do you have anything else?
No, I had the two notes were the Ravens and the Kyler Murray signing, or the Ravens debacle and the Kyler Murray signing, and so my notes are all spent.
On that note, so many shows, so many shows.com, so many mashups. This is Mike, this is Pete, this is NFL Free Agent Frenzy. Later.
Talk to you on the next one. Have a great week.
35 red, blue, say